Welcome to VNT. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In a time of deep political division, when it often feels like the country is split down the middle on nearly every issue, the decisions made by our highest court take on even greater significance. The Supreme Court, often seen as the final arbiter of justice, has the power to shape the nation's laws and, by extension, the daily lives of millions of Americans. That's why the Supreme Court's recent unanimous rulings stand out as rare moments of clarity and unity. In a landscape where consensus is hard to find, all 9 justices coming together sends a powerful signal to the country. Regardless of their personal philosophies or political leanings, the justices agreed on cases that fundamentally reshape the boundaries of government power and individual liberty. This kind of agreement is not just unusual, it's historic, and it underscores the gravity of the issues at stake. These decisions, especially those touching on the Second and Fourth Amendments, send a clear and powerful message. Some constitutional principles are so foundational, they rise above the political fray. They remind us that the rule of law is meant to protect everyone, regardless of ideology. In this chapter, we'll examine 2 landmark cases that have captured national attention and sparked debate across the country. The first, Smith & Wesson Brands v. Mexico, explores whether gun manufacturers can be held liable for violence committed with their products, a question with far-reaching implications for both international relations and domestic gun policy. The second, NRA v. Vulo, addresses the extent to which government officials can pressure private entities to silence speech, raising fundamental questions about the First Amendment and the limits of state power. Both cases, decided unanimously at 9-0, reinforce the idea that there are clear limits to what the government can do, and that the protection of fundamental rights is not up for negotiation, even in turbulent times. The court's unified voice in these decisions fortifies the guardrails that protect individual freedoms from overreach, whether that overreach comes from foreign entities, powerful corporations, or our own government. Understanding these rulings is essential for grasping the evolving relationship between citizens and the state. As we move forward, these decisions will continue to shape the legal landscape and influence how rights and responsibilities are balanced in American society. In the landmark case of Smith & Wesson Brands v. Mexico, the Supreme Court was confronted with a bold and unprecedented legal challenge that captured international attention. The central question was this: could the government of Mexico hold American gun manufacturers legally responsible for the violence and devastation caused by firearms that ended up in the hands of criminal cartels across the border? Mexico argued that U.S. gunmakers knowingly enabled the trafficking of weapons into their country, fueling organized crime and bypassing American legal protections that typically shield manufacturers from such lawsuits. But the Supreme Court, in a rare unanimous decision, firmly rejected Mexico's claims. The justices reaffirmed that the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, passed by Congress in 2005, provides a robust legal shield for gun makers, protecting them from liability for crimes committed by third parties, even when those lawsuits are brought by foreign governments seeking accountability. Writing for the court, Justice Kagan emphasized that legal responsibility for gun violence ends with the individual criminal, not with the manufacturer or seller of the firearm. The opinion underscored that Congress intended to draw a clear line, preventing courts from holding gun makers liable for the independent actions of others. This sweeping decision effectively closes the door on using civil lawsuits as a tool to regulate or dismantle the firearms industry, ensuring that any changes to gun policy or manufacturer liability must come from lawmakers, not the courts. The ruling not only cements the industry's legal protections, but also sends a powerful message. The Supreme Court will respect legislative intent, leaving the future of gun regulation in the hands of Congress and the American people. The second case, NRA v. Vulo, shifted focus to the First Amendment and government overreach. After the Parkland shooting, New York's financial regulator allegedly pressured banks and insurers to cut ties with the NRA, using regulatory threats. The NRA argued this was unconstitutional coercion, government punishing speech it disliked through back channels. The Supreme Court unanimously agreed, officials cannot use their power to indirectly silence groups or viewpoints. Justice Sotomayor's opinion affirmed that such conduct, if proven, violates the First Amendment and that the lawsuit could proceed. The ruling protects all advocacy groups from government intimidation, ensuring the marketplace of ideas remains open. It's a clear warning. Regulatory power is not a license to punish dissent. In a polarized era, these 9-0 rulings are remarkable. Justices appointed by presidents from both parties found agreement on core constitutional principles. In Smith and Wesson, the court united around legislative supremacy and clear statutory text. Congress, not court, sets liability rules. In Vullo, the justices agreed that government cannot use its power to punish speech, no matter the group or viewpoint. This consensus shows the court's commitment to foundational rights over partisan interests. When justices from across the spectrum sign on to the same opinion, it reinforces the judiciary's legitimacy. These decisions are grounded in law, not politics. The court's unity offers hope for principled governance and a stable rule of law. These rulings have immediate, tangible effects on people's lives. Smith and Wesson solidifies legal protections for gun makers, effectively ending the strategy of using lawsuits as a tool for gun control. For gun rights advocates, it's a major victory. Manufacturers can now operate without existential legal threats looming over them. Vullo protects advocacy groups' access to essential services, shielding them from government pressure and ensuring their financial privacy. The principle extends beyond gun groups, protecting any organization or individual from regulatory retaliation for their views or beliefs. These decisions draw bright lines. Crime responsibility lies with the criminal, and government cannot wage proxy wars against its critics. Together, they reinforce the crucial balance of power between citizens and the state. Supreme Court decisions often seem distant, almost like abstract debates happening far away from our daily lives. But in reality, these rulings have a direct and sometimes immediate impact on people across the country, shaping the way we live, work, and express ourselves. The Vullo decision, for example, now stands as a powerful shield for broadcasters, journalists, and commentators. It protects them from government threats and pressure, like recent attempts to intimidate TV stations over their political coverage or editorial choices. This means the media can report freely without fear of losing their licenses or facing retaliation for covering controversial topics. If regulators or officials try to punish speech they disagree with, those affected, whether individuals, news organizations, or advocacy groups, can now point to Vullo as a clear precedent to defend their rights in court. This gives people a stronger legal footing to push back against censorship and government overreach. The Smith and Wesson case also has far-reaching effects. It ensures that Americans continue to have access to legal firearms, and that the ongoing debate over gun rights remains focused on legislation and public policy, not on attempts to destroy entire industries through backdoor tactics or regulatory pressure. These Supreme Court decisions also mean that banks and financial institutions are less likely to close accounts or deny services simply because of a customer's political donations or beliefs. Businesses, nonprofits, and individuals are now safer from official retaliation or economic pressure based on their viewpoints. Ultimately, these rulings affirm that government must play by the rules and respect constitutional rights. This creates a freer, more predictable environment for everyone, where people can speak, associate, and do business without fear of arbitrary punishment. Whether you're a gun owner, an activist, a journalist, or a small business owner, your rights are now more secure and protected than before, making a real difference in the lives of everyday Americans. Looking ahead, these unanimous rulings reshape the legal landscape for rights and regulation. Lawsuits against gun makers are blocked. Future gun control efforts must go through legislatures. Vullo warns officials, regulatory threats against disfavored groups will face intense scrutiny. This will lead to more transparent, accountable government actions. The court's message rights are not privileges granted by those in power. They are constitutional guarantees. The First Amendment now stands as a stronger shield for all, popular or not. The Supreme Court hasn't ended political disagreements, but it has reinforced the guardrails that keep those debates within the rule of law. In doing so, the court has provided legal clarity and a more stable future for fundamental American rights.